Guys, I am here with the preeminent mind, the biggest brain in all of martial arts. It's the man, the myth, possibly the legend. It's Chael Sonnen. Chael, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you, buddy?
Man,
Congrats on the new show, by the way. You guys are going to kill it.
thank you so much for being here. The main thing that I want to take advantage of while I have you for just a brief time, I want to get the expert opinion on the marketing and promotional side of jiu-jitsu. What do you see? Do you like the direction that you see jiu-jitsu going in terms of this? Or do you think that they're missing some big things?
Well, there's a little bit of both, but if we can start with the good, I mean, I feel like jiu-jitsu is in an incredibly strong spot. I think that it is the most vicious skill set or rule set that I've ever seen. When we would put on jiu-jitsu events, we would do MMA the night before, and you'd have a beer drinking crowd, and it'd be rowdy and not a lot of kids there. And I would even talk to some of the parents that would say, well, I couldn't bring the kids to this. But the next day we'd have jiu-jitsu, and that would be, grandma and the whole family and the little kids sitting on the knee. And I only bring that to you because there was such a positive energy in the room. There was no stress before and after the match. People are shaking hands. There's a really good camaraderie. But if you read the rule set, it's brutal. You're only allowed to strangle a guy or attempt to break one of his limbs. Like, it's this really intense thing. I think jiu-jitsu is better off, just by example, with Gordon Ryan. I think that he's a very meaningful character. And I know leading into Abu Dhabi, there was still a push from the community to hold him back, hold that brashness back. And they were hoping that Andre could maybe stop it and we could stick with some of the more classical beliefs. But I think that it's a good thing. I mean, Craig Jones was in Portland over the weekend. I got to sit down with him for a couple of hours. Craig started the B team. And Brandon, when that whole thing happened, I really thought that was a very cheap marketing ploy. The fact that they all left Puerto Rico, then they end up in the same city, and then you got the B team, like they were up to something, but then a period of time went by and they didn't do anything with it. And then another period of time, and I'm talking a year goes by. This is real. These guys have really split up. Why they're in the same city, I don't know, but this breakup is real. And now it's gotten even worse, right? I mean, like the heat between Nikki and Gordon is getting turned up so much. And one thing that I do have to give the jiu-jitsu guys some credit for, and it's particularly the American ones, but they're willing to compete. And we don't see that all through the world. There's a lot of guys that'll only show up to Abu Dhabi every couple of years and put it on the line. But the American guys are trying to make a career out of it. And they're staying busy. They're competing. They're giving us the matches that we want. I think jiu-jitsu's in a good spot.
Do you think there are a couple of like key concepts as far as promoting yourself and becoming a true professional that you see missing from the top guys? We know that Gordon's doing a great job. We know that Craig's doing a great job. Totally opposite ends of how they market themselves. But what do you need if you want to get to that level? Let's say you're just as talented as these guys. What are some of the things that you really see missing conceptually?
Well, there's such good opportunities right now. Like when I started the sport, I mean, I think the year was 2008. Dana White threw a fighter summit. He brings everybody under contract, which was over 300 guys at that time. It's now over 700 guys. But he flies them all to Las Vegas. We're going to a fighter summit. We don't even know what that means. In one of the courses that we had, there's a whole bunch of IT folks in the back with computers, and Dana's going to take our smartphones and have us set up with something called Twitter. We don't have the foggiest idea what that means, but we do it. We go to a professional and they're going to get us a little blue check mark. Dana was always known for getting Christmas presents. One year, he gets us a MacBook. And the next year, he gets us a camera. And he ties it together and says, start making videos of yourself, go to the MacBook and upload them to Twitter. Like, they all tied in. And I only bring this to you because the world's a very different place. And we're so responsible now for pushing and promoting ourselves, for telling our own stories. And when I do watch a lot of the guys in jiu-jitsu, man, I'm seeing very busy on Instagram. I'm seeing very busy on YouTube. I'm seeing them getting out there and doing interviews. I'm seeing them bring a camera in the practice room, which is like a forbidden fruit. I love to watch those practice room matches, but it's like a rule, man. You don't talk about the practice room. Nobody gets to come in. It's a closed door session. And now all of a sudden you got the B team, just by example. And Craig's fresh on my mind, but they're bringing it in and they're showing it, putting it out to the world for free on YouTube. I love that. I love watching those rolls. I love watching that intensity. I love watching that technique. So, but the point that I'm trying to make, Brandon, is there's a lot of opportunities out there right now. The guys that do it right embrace that. Some of the other guys, they're a little shy. They're going to take the matches they can get. They're going to try to work their way up. I think there's less opportunity doing that, though.
I totally agree. And I really think that guys are, I feel like you're just putting out gold every day on your channel, like multiple times a day. I feel like you're almost like an educator, that a lot of these guys are just skipping an opportunity to learn from the best in the game. If you were going to, let's just imagine Bad Guy University. Okay. Bad Guy. You're not even going to teach martial arts, but you're going to teach people who want to be professional martial artists, specifically in the realm of jiu-jitsu. What are the titles of a couple of these 101 classes that you got to give to these guys?
Well, and thank you. That was very sweet the way you led into that. But I would tell you, promotion, I'll hear people say this a lot. I've even seen people, real feelings hurt at the highest of levels with Scott Coker and Dana White, people even wanting out of contracts because they didn't feel they were promoted correctly. And if you sit that person down and go, okay, but tell me what you mean. What does that word mean, promotion? Did you not think you won enough billboards? Did you not think you got enough interviews? Did you not think there was enough press releases? What's really tough is when people don't understand the word promotion just means storytelling. And if you have a really good promoter, it means he's a really good storyteller. And if you have a really big fight, it means the audience liked the story. It doesn't mean that this was the Olympic champion versus the Olympic champion. Resumes very seldomly come into the big fights. It's the story. It's the intensity. Does the audience, one, have an interest in it? Two, do they buy it? Do they think that it's manufactured? And when this stuff is very real and this stuff is very organic, you got to go out and tell a story. And Brandon, if I was to go, moreover, if I'm Professor Chael and I'm telling you, a story's got 5 W's: who, what, when, why, and where. And if you leave out any one of those W's, you have a story that's incomplete. And I will see so many people, they'll get so close, they'll say something interesting, but they don't tell us why. They don't tell us what the match is about. Or I'll see a partial call out, but they don't have an idea of when we're going to do it or at what weight class. And you got to have all 5 W's for storytelling.
Absolutely. Now, Chael, a little birdie named TJ DeSantis tells me that you might have a little bit of a scoop, a little bit of an insight on something that's happening in the jiu-jitsu world. I am all ears.
All right. Well, so I have to tell you this. So Craig Jones was in town, and this was very interesting because I think that Craig is the best. That is a very debated topic, and it's also very hard to say in spite of the evidence that Gordon Ryan has beaten him 3 out of 3 times. But there is a tie-in, and there was a way that this math works, which is Vinny Magliash. Vinny Magliash beat Gordon. He's the last person to beat Gordon, and he beat him badly. It was either 7-0 or it was 7-1. But one of those is exact, and that's off the top of my head. But I'm right on one of those scores. And Craig beat Vinny. So you've got this round robin where Craig could make the argument. I was there when Craig took on Gordon the first time. It was 2017. We were in Finland at Abu Dhabi. And Craig was in awe. This is right as Gordon was becoming Gordon. Gordon wasn't quite understood as good as he was until that Abu Dhabi competition got over. But Craig didn't think he belonged out there, and I could see it. And he found a way out of that match quickly. He found a way out in one piece, but very quickly. And then they rematched again, and he got a lot closer. Then they rematched again, and you might remember this in EBI, and it was like a 1-second separation where these guys got really close. So when they split up, I just didn't know what that was going to mean for Craig. My understanding of that is John Danaher was the ringmaster, but then that would default down to Gordon. Like, by example, if John wasn't in practice one day, Gordon would be in charge. And I didn't know Craig could train himself. I didn't know if he had that leadership to run a gym and to train a group of guys, to be at the helm, to be the one with the practice plan that's driving guys that are tired and sore. And it's just worked out so well. And then Craig even spilled over into MMA. And you see him working with guys like Robert Whitaker, who, by the way, his ground game it got very good when he was working with Craig. Or you even see him in the corner of Volkanovski. And Craig was sharing with me. Now, to appreciate this story, you'd have to know this moment. But when the Volkanovski-Islam fight ended, Islam goes over to Craig, and we can't hear what he says, but on camera, he says something to Craig, and it's like a question about a submission. So I asked Craig about that. What did Islam say? And Craig said no. He came over and heckled me. He said, he walked up to me and he said, your boy needs to learn how to finish a choke. So Craig put it back in his face and said, well, you know, he had your back. Maybe you need to learn to defend that position. They go in the back and everything's cool in the gang between these two teams. They're getting along. They're doing the thank you. They're doing the congratulations. They're doing photos together. And all of a sudden the text message comes in from the nurse claiming she gave an IV which is against the rules to Islam. So this spreads around, like they're all in the same room, Craig says. You got all the Dagestanis, and you got this moment. These guys are all beat up. It was just this glorious fight. It was just this wonderful moment in MMA that was almost unexpected. We thought Islam's going to go right through and right. He was a 3-1 favorite, to remind you. So they're showing that. They're not saying it out loud. They're just showing it to each other because they don't want these guys to know. And they decide to keep it down, but Craig says the mood changes instantly. All of a sudden, they're not shaking. There's no more photos, and there's no more. They're trying to now get out of the room, and they were going to bury it. They were going to keep it to themselves and bury it, but it turned out it was Dan Hooker's birthday. So Dan hits the bar, and he gets a few pictures and a few shots, and he decides to bring this little gem to the world. I just thought you'd appreciate how that story came about.
That's incredible. Chael, you are an absolute pleasure. You're the premier educator for all martial artists right now. Everybody should be studying everything that this man puts out. Chael, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Hey, you guys are awesome. I was a little worried today. I apologize. I was excited to talk to you. Have me back another time. I'll get to my point a little bit faster, Big B.
You were perfect, man. Thank you.
See you guys.